Some people go to the forest for wisdom, peace, spiritual clarity. We're going to collect prestige points and build suspiciously large stones. I'm Mike with Expedition Gaming, and this is the Druids of Edora. Edora. Edora? Edora?
Welcome to the forest. In this game, we'll be traveling around the forest, visiting the various shrines, and placing our dice out into those shrines to gain the benefit of whatever we cover up. So we'll be traveling across this map, placing our dice out all over the place. We'll be accomplishing a variety of tasks by doing this, but one of the main things we're always keeping in mind is you want the strongest dice out inside each of the shrines, because at the end of the game, whoever has the strongest die in each shrine is going to be able to score a bunch of points for that. Now, there are a variety of ways that you can score points throughout this game, both during the game as well as at the end of the game. And you'll see where those points come from as we actually begin taking turns. Now, the flow of the game will have a player moving and placing a die out into the forest. Then play will pass to the next player, who will also move and place a die out into the forest. So that's the flow of the game, and you'll just keep doing that, taking turns in that manner, until one player has placed all 13 of their dice out into the forest. Now, as you can see, we each start with 4 dice, and we have 9 that are locked up in this reserve. And there are ways that you can unlock these dice, and that's pretty important. You never want to take a turn and not have dice to take a turn, but we'll talk about that more in detail later. But once that 13th die has been placed into the forest, you'll complete that current round, and then the game will end. You'll go into final scoring and add up points from a handful of sources, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, there are still a variety of things to look at and talk about, but I think rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of all of this, let's jump right into gameplay. That way you can see what it feels like to take a turn, and we can discover how all of these various elements work as we go along. So, we are the purple player, and we'll be going up against Yeti, who is the yellow player. Now, we'll be going first, because during setup, each player will take their 4 starting dice, roll it, and add up the sum of what you've rolled. Whoever has the highest total becomes the start player. Then, in reverse turn order, players will choose their starting positions around the map here. So, Yeti decided to start there. We decided to start right there. And you can see the other 2 starting positions are right here on the edges of the map. But of course, we selected this one. Now, for our very first turn of the game, you actually skip the move portion of your turn. Yes, technically we are going to relocate into this shrine here, but the rules tell you that you skip the move part and go straight into the shrine. So now that we're here, the next thing that we do on our turn is we will select one of our dice and place it out into the shrine. Now, every die that you place, you have to pay a certain number of provisions to place that die. The number of provisions is equal to the value that's on the dice. So we're going to go with this one, which will only cost us 1 provision. And then we will place it out onto the space. And again, the space that we cover up is the action that we're going to take. So we're going to place this right here and cover up the stone tablet. That's going to let us claim one of these stone tablets over here. Now, these are ways to score points at the end of the game. Every tablet that you have completed the conditions printed on it will score you 10 points. So each one of these are worth a potential 10 points for you. You can choose any tablet that is face up on the display. whichever tablet you choose, you're going to gain the benefits that are adjacent to each side of that tablet. So if we went with this one, we would gain a bump on the knowledge track and 3 victory points. But in this case, we're going to grab this tablet right here. That will gain us 3 provisions, and we will get to move up on this track right here. Now that gave us 1 point of movement, so we'll advance our sickle to right there. Now as we advance up this track here, we'll get to unlock some special benefits for ourselves that will either break the rules in our favor or make certain actions a little bit more powerful. And we'll talk about the details of this very shortly. I'm actually gunning for this kind of early on. So we'll see that in detail here in a minute. But now we have this new stone tablet, and this one here wants us to brew 4 potions. And that's these right here. These are going to be like one-off abilities that we can use that will require some mistletoe in order to brew them. But now we've set some sights on brewing some of those. So we want to get 4 of those brewed. And if we do at the end of the game, that tablet will score us 10 points. Now we're also sitting on this tablet right here. This wants us to get 3 dice along a path that are adjacent to each other that all have the same value. So right now we have a number 1 out right there. If we had a number 1 here and a number 1 there, that would complete that objective. So just something that we're thinking about as we place our dice out. Now speaking of placing dice out, now we have placed a 1 out here. And obviously that's as low of a value as you can get. It has a low provision cost, which is why I went with that. Provisions are going to be pretty important. But the risk is that Yeti could come in here and place a die of his own and very easily overtake us in this shrine. So that's a risk. That's something that you got to weigh out. But for right now, first off, he's so far away. Second off, provisions are they're precious, especially early on. So I'm going to take that risk for now. Now it's important to note, you can only ever have 1 die at a shrine. So we could never come back here and place a second one down. So that value 1 is what we have to work with for right now. But that's it for our turn. We have moved into this shrine here. We've placed our die. So now play goes over to Yeti. So he will move into his starting shrine. And he's going to grab this, which will cost him 3 provisions. And he's going to place it out onto this space right here. That will allow him to put out one of his rune stones. You can choose any one of these that you want. Each one of them have their own benefits. But he's going to go with this rune stone right here. Now this says that based on the value of the die, he'll gain dice from the supply. So you'll take the value of the die, you'll multiply it by 1, and gain that many dice that are locked up. So this rune stone will go out into the shrine there, and then he's got a value 3 die out there. So that's going to be 3 times 1, or 3 dice from his supply here. Now, whenever you're taking dice from the supply, you're allowed to grab whatever values you want. In this case, he's actually going to grab his 3 lowest. So now he's got some more dice to work with. And that's it for his turn. Now it moves back to us. And again, the very first thing that we'll do on our turn is move. Now when you move, you're going to travel to a different shrine, and it costs provisions to travel around. You can travel as far as you want, as long as you can pay for it. Every shrine that you enter costs 1 provision, and every dark forest space that you cross also costs 1 provision. Now this part can be a little bit tricky artwork-wise, but here you have a path that is completely surrounded by light forests. Here you have a path that enters into some dark forest space. So moving along this path would cost 1 provision, whereas moving along this path, being completely surrounded by light forests, doesn't cost any provisions. Now, it doesn't matter how thin or how slim the dark forest is. If there's just a little bit of dark forest on that path, it's going to cost you 1 provision to travel across it. So this would cost a provision, that would cost a provision. And again, you can move as far as you want as long as you have the provisions to pay for it. As it stands, we're actually just going to go right there, which is only going to cost us 1 provision. That 1 provision for entering into 1 shrine, and this path through the light forest doesn't cost us anything. So it'll cost us 1 provision for the move, and we're going to place out our number 4 die there. So it's going to be 4 provisions for the die, 1 provision for the move, for a total of 5 provisions. So we'll take our 1 and change. And then we're going to place out onto this space right here. This is going to gain us 2 mistletoe and let us brew a potion. So that might be kind of hard to see there, but that little triangular looking symbol gives you mistletoe. There's a number 2 that's next to it, so that'll get us 2 mistletoe. And that pot symbol means that we get to brew 1 potion. So we will gain 2 mistletoe, but I'm instantly going to spend it to brew this potion right here, which costs 2 mistletoe. So we'll grab this. Whenever you brew a potion, you have to use it immediately. You can't hang on to it and use it at a later time. In this case, this will give us 3 advancements of our sickle. So we will go 1, 2, 3. And then that is brewed and used. So that's 1 out of the 4 that we need for that stone tablet. So that brings us to a new step in our turn. You may have noticed this tile out here, and this actually outlines the 7 steps that make up your entire turn. So far, we've seen moving your figure and paying provisions, placing a die out and paying provisions, and then step 4, which is to actually take the action of the space that you're covering up. We'll talk about these other steps when they become relevant, such as step 7, which is what we have just come across now, dealing with medicinal herbs. At the end of your turn, if you have reached any medicinal herbs and unlock them, you'll get to take these and add them into this sideboard over here. So you'll find their matching places and lock them in. Then you'll choose one to turn face down and become inactive, and the other one gets to stay face up and is now active. And as I said before, this board will give you, it'll unlock some special unique abilities for yourself, such as this one right here. From now on, when we place a die out into a shrine, we can adjust the value of that die up or down by 2. So we could adjust it down by 1 or down by 2, up by 1 or 2. It's important to note that dice do not wrap, so a value 1 die could not become a 6, and a 6 could not become a 1. So I really like that ability. That's going to give us flexibility for placing dice out. This one here would make it a little bit better to put out standing stones, which we have not done yet. Every one of these are great. So every one of these, it's a happy time and a painful time to slot these in, because it's great to get one ability, but it can be difficult to lose another ability. However, there are some ways that you can regain those. Like this potion right here, if we brewed it, then we could actually flip over one of our inactive tokens. So there are some other ways that we might still gain access to some of these benefits. But again, every set of medicinal herbs that you cross, at this stage, we will now unlock all of these. So for these ones, I'm going to set that inactive. This would make it a little bit more powerful to build up our amulet, and we'll see that later as we move along. This is the one that I'm going to activate. This is pretty neat. This is going to make it really cheap to move around what are called clearings out in the map. So if we check out the map here, you'll notice that there are clusters of forest that are light colored forest, and then there are the dark forests that separate them. A clearing is any, for example, this is a clearing right here because you have light forest connecting this entire region here. Conversely, this single shrine right here is considered a clearing. It's isolated from all the others via dark forest, so that's a clearing. So here we have a big clearing. Right here is a very large clearing. Here's another single shrine clearing. Here's a 2 shrine clearing. So this special ability that we just unlocked says that we can move our figure to any shrine within the same clearing for just the cost of 1 provision. So that's going to help us really jump around some of these larger areas of the map for a low provision cost. But that's it for us. Last step is to take care of the medicinal herbs, which we've done. So now play goes back over to Yeti. And Yeti's going to move along this path right here. So he'll just move up to that shrine right there, which that will cost 1 provision for moving through the dark forest, and then another provision for the single shrine that he's visited. So a total of 2 provisions for travel. And he's going to place out that die there. So he's going to pay a total of 3 provisions. And he's going to place out and cover up that space right there, which is very similar to, it's almost identical to what we just did, but he'll get 3 mistletoe, and then he can brew a potion. And he is going to do the same thing. He's going to spend the 3 that he's just gained to brew this potion right here. Of course, I should have mentioned, but the cost is printed in the corners there for each of these. So if you want to brew one of these potions, then it would take 6 mistletoe. Now, it's also important to note he's gaining 3 mistletoe. So he could, if he wanted to, take all 3 of those mistletoe and spend some of it right now. So maybe he brews just this potion, and then he can hang on to the remaining mistletoe. But he likes this one right here. Now, it's also another interesting note that the only time you can brew potions is when you are taking the action out on the board here that gives you the mistletoe and the brewing. There are other effects in the game that might give you mistletoe, but they don't let you brew a potion. So when you do go to brew a potion, it can be good to have extra mistletoe on hand to help you brew some of these more powerful ones. But as it is, he's going to brew this potion right here. This is going to let him erect another runestone as if he had used a value 3 die. Basically, it's a repeat of what he just did a moment ago. And for that, he's going to choose this runestone right here. So 3 times 3 will give him 9 provisions for placing that runestone out. The 3 bottom rune stones work off of multipliers. So you'll take the value of the die that you used, multiply it by the number, and then gain the benefit. The 3 rune stones along the top row will subtract based on the value of the die, and then you'll gain the benefit. So for example, this one here will subtract 1 from the die and give you mistletoe. If he used that die for it, it would be 6 minus 1, and he would gain 5 mistletoe, and so forth. Over to us. And I think we're going to continue moving up in this direction. Now you'll notice this path goes underneath this set of stairs. These 2 paths are not connected, so we could not travel up to one of those shrines there. This simply goes underneath the stairs, and we can travel up there. And of course, that's going to cost us a provision for traveling through the dark forest and a provision for the shrine that we have landed on. So 2 provisions for the travel. And then we're going to put out this die, but we're going to tap into our newfound ability here, and we're going to adjust it down to a 3 because we can move it by 2. So 2 for the travel, and 3 for the die placement, for a total of 5 provisions. And then we're going to place it out into this space here, which is going to let us construct a standing stone. The value of the die that you use for this does not matter, but the standing stones are right here. And the way that these work is whichever standing stone you place out, you will gain the benefit right away, and then you will gain the benefits of any standing stones you had previously placed out a second time. So say, for example, this is what we have, and now we're going to place out a new standing stone. We can put that one out, and it will give us 3 victory points right away. Then we'll fire off all the other stones again, including the one we just put out. So we would gain another 3 points, 3 provisions, and 1 mistletoe. But as it is, I think we'll put out this one here, which will give us 1 die. And I think we'll go with this number 3 right here. Kind of middle of the road. It'll give us a little flexibility if we need to go up or down with it. And I'm just realizing that I should have placed out a new one of these stone tablets right away, right after we drew that one. So now we have that extra die on hand. Back over to Yeti. He's going to move right there for 2 provisions, 1 for crossing the dark forest and 1 for entering into the shrine. There's the 2, and then he's going to place out his number 3 for 3 more provisions. And he's going to advance his sickle 2 spaces forward to right there, which will unlock those medicinal herbs there. So he will set that one inactive and this one as the active. Now this one is going to help him with his rune stones up here. It's going to be able to treat any die that he uses as if it was 2 pips higher. It's probably really hard to see. The printing's pretty small, but it'll increase the value of these top dice by 2. Now he doesn't need to pay any additional provision costs. So for example, he could use a 3, but he would get to treat it as if it was a 5 when he's building these rune stones out there. The one that he set as inactive deals with the knowledge track. Now this track up here, you really want to climb up because at the end of the game, this is going to be your multiplier for the shrines that you won with having the strongest die out. Let's just say that this was a shrine at the end of the game. You would look at it and say, who has the strongest die in that shrine? And in the case of a tie, you'll actually reference the knowledge track. This is the tiebreaker. Whoever is on top of the stack, we are currently sitting underneath. Whoever's on top of the stack will break the tie, or whoever is furthest along on that track. So in this case, Yeti would win the tie, and he would win this shrine. Now, again, this is end of the game. You would remove any other dice out of that shrine except for whoever won it. Then you collect everything out of that shrine. That includes the dice and any standing stones or rune stones that were constructed there, regardless of who built them. So you collect all of the elements out, bring it back to your supply. Then you'll add up all of the dice and all of the stones that you have accumulated for all of the shrines that you won, and you'll multiply that based on where you're at on that track. So as you can see, if you're winning a bunch of shrines with stones and dice, and you're far up on that track, that can be worth a lot of points. So that's why you want to pay attention to shrines that could be in contention. And see, we're starting to get close to each other here, so we could start competing with each other depending on what we go after. But those are things you want to keep in mind. And Yeti building this rune stone out here with a level 1 die is risky because we can easily come in and win with the strongest die in there, and then we would gain basically one of his pieces. So these are things you want to keep in mind. But again, provisions, they're precious. So you're always trying to balance out, your resources with having the right kind of presence out here on the board. But that should do it for Yeti's turn, and now it's back to us. Over to us, and we are going to actually come back the way that we came. So we're going to go over to right there. Now we visited 2 shrines, so that's 2 provisions plus 1 more for that dark forest. So we're going to be looking at 3 provisions, plus we're going to send this die out, and once again using that ability, we're going to roll that down to a 4. So 3 provisions plus 4 for the placement. It's actually going to clean us out of provisions. But then we will place this right here. Now, we could go here, and that would give us our choice of either 3 dice or 12 provisions. But we're going to go here instead. We're not going to get as many provisions, but it's going to help us start building our amulet. We'll be able to take a gemstone, slot it, and you can see there's like a number 1 that's inside there. This gemstone has a number 3. That one has a number 2. So we're going to take a gemstone from the knowledge board. We can choose any of these gemstones up here, and whichever one we choose will get the benefit that's shown inside there. In this case, we're going to take the provisions, and as is shown here, we'll gain that benefit twice. So we'll get 3 provisions twice for a total of 6 provisions. And then the number inside the gemstone there tells you where you get to slot it in your amulet. This is our amulet, and you'll see that there's a 1, a 2, and a 3 on the left and right side. This was a level 1, so it needs to be slotted into this level 1 space right here. So that goes right there. Now the first gemstone of a particular level must be added in on the left side. The second time we get a level 1 gemstone, we'll have to add it into the right side. Then, at the end of the game, every completed row is worth 10 points. And if you've completed the left side, you'll gain 20 points. So if we fully fill up this amulet, that'll be worth 50 points at the end of the game. Now, one other important note, that's the only time we can choose that gemstone. There's a total of 6 of them up there, so the next time we grab one, it's going to have to be a different one other than that. Now again, we could have gone here for more provisions, and we're really low on provisions. But I wanted to add this 4 in right here because we have a 4 there and a 4 there. If we can get one more 4 next adjacent to these, then we'll complete that stone tablet right there, and that'll get us 10 points. So I'm hoping that by going with a little less provisions, that'll help us in the long run by helping to complete that. Plus, it got us starting to work on our amulet here. That'll do it for us. Over to Yeti. He will travel up to this clearing for a cost of 2 provisions. And then he's going to send his level 4 die out there. So it's going to be a total of 6 provisions. And he's going to do just like we did. He's going to grab a gemstone. He'll get to activate it twice, and it's going into a level 3 slot. He's going to grab this gemstone. Goes into a level 3 slot right there. He will activate it twice, which will get him 2 jumps of his sickle, and he'll get to slot these in. He'll keep that one active, and he'll turn that one inactive. This one says that there are certain effects in the game that will give you exactly 3 points, and whenever that happens, instead of getting the 3, you would gain 5 points. And an example of that would be like if you erected that standing stone, instead of getting 3 points, it would give you 5, or there's certain bonfire benefits that would get you 3 points, those would give you 5 instead. But he's gone inactive for that one, and instead he's chosen this one to be his active. Oops, I put that in the wrong spot there. Goes right there. That says that whenever you do gain the bonfire bonuses, you can take one of those bonuses an extra time. As we come back to us, I would like to get, again, another 4 adjacent to this one. And we have the resources to make that happen, but it would fairly well clean us out. We could jump that up to 4 if we wanted, and then we'd have to pay 1 provision to try. We could make it happen, but I think what maybe we'll do instead is using our ability to travel within the same clearing for a single provision. Let's come down over to here. And then using our other ability, we'll roll this down to a 1 to make it very cheap to place out. So it's only going to cost us 2 provisions for this one. 1 for the travel, 1 for the placement. And then we'll place it out right here. And we're going to grab another amulet. Or I'm sorry, another gemstone. And it will slot into the level 3 slot. And this one is a multiplier of 3. So we'll grab that gemstone, which will give us 3 dice. We'll slot it in right there. And then this might be a bad move, but we're going to grab the 3 lowest valued dice, mainly for the provision cost. So hopefully this doesn't bite us in the long run and cause us to lose some majorities out here, but maybe we'll try to place these further away where they're at less risk and be able to generate us some resources to get ourselves back into the middle, into the fray with some higher valued dice. Yeti's going to move along this path right here. That will cost 1 for the Dark Forest, 1 for the Shrine. And he's going to place that die out there for a total of 3 provisions. He'll place it there, which is going to give him 3 advancements on the knowledge track, which will bring him up to there. So he's now reached the first multiplier, so he'll at least score points for whatever shrines or whatever pieces he brings back from wand shrines. And then a couple things have happened. Well, one, but it's happened a couple of times. He has completely surrounded this bonfire and that bonfire. He now has dice in all of the shrines adjacent to each of them. So he will get to take some bonfire tokens and cover those up. And don't forget, his new special ability that he unlocked will allow him to take 1 benefit from each of those bonfires a second time. So this one here, he's going to get a bump on the knowledge track twice, and then he'll get to move his sickle once. And then he's going to take the sickle advancement a second time. So 2 advancements on the knowledge track. And then he'll advance that twice. And then this one here, that is so tiny, but it gives him 3 victory points. And again, this was one of those areas where you could turn that 3 into a 5 if you had the right medicinal herb. But he'll get 3 points for that and 1 mistletoe. And he's going to take the mistletoe benefit a second time for this bonfire activation. So he will gain 3 points and 2 mistletoe. And again, these mistletoe will just sit here, and then when he does take an action that allows him to brew a potion, he'll have some extra on hand to help him reach some of those higher potions. And of course, that was step 5, looking at completed bonfires. And now for his step 7, he's going to take that herb and make that one inactive. This would give you an extra multiplier for any gemstones you've slotted into your amulet. Instead, he's going to go with the same one that we've had active to give him some flexibility on his dice placement. Okay, let's move on down to that shrine there. 1 for the Dark Forest, 1 for the Shrine. And we're going to put out our last level 1. So we're looking at a total of 3 provisions. And we're going to put out another standing stone. So let's grab this one here. That will gain us 3 provisions. Place that there. And then these all go off again. So we'll get 3 more provisions. And then we'll gain another die. And I think we'll grab this last number 2 here. Hopefully start working our way into some bigger values. Now Yeti, he is in a pickle. He has quite literally backed himself into a corner. The problem is that the 2 closest clearings are this one and this one. But each of those are going to take 4 provisions to get there. This would be 1, 2, 3, plus the 4 for the Dark Forest. Over here is 1, 2, but then 3, 4 for the Dark Forest sections. And the issue is that he only has 4 provisions. So even with his new ability of being able to roll this down to a 1, just getting somewhere is going to take all of his provisions, which means he doesn't have enough to both move and place a die out. Now when this happens, your turn changes and you are forced to take what's called a Druid in Distress move. A Druid in Distress does not take a normal action. Instead, they will gain 6 provisions from the supply and 1 of their dice. So he'll grab this one. And that's it. That ends your turn. So yes, you do get some resources on hand and a die that you can place out. But as long as we don't have to take a Druid in Distress turn, that means that he likely is not going to be able to get all of his dice placed out by the end of the game. That's possible. We might do something similar where we run out of resources and we need to do that. So there is that possibility. But you want to avoid the Druid in Distress as much as possible. But that's the situation that he found himself in. If you ever run out of dice or provisions, then you are forced to take that as an action. You can do a Druid in Distress turn voluntarily if you want to, but as I said, it's not ideal. So you want to avoid it if you can. He couldn't, so that was his turn, and now it's back to us. For our action, I think let's move over to here. It'll be 2 for the shrines and 3 provisions for the Dark Forest. And then we will roll this one down to a 1 as well, for a total of 4 provisions. And we're going to go with this one right here. Now, we could go with the level 3, and that would let us place out our second level 3 right there. But if we go with the level 2, then we've definitely completed this side, which will get us 20 points. So we'll slot that in there, and it's a 2x multiplier. Grab that gemstone and slot it in right there. And we'll get 2 bumps with our sickle. As always, both of these are really good. This would give us 2 extra advancements whenever we take the action that allows us to advance our sickle. And again, specifically, that is the action that lets you advance the sickle, like that one right there. But I think instead, we're going to boost this one, and if we ever take the action out on the map that gives us provisions, it will give us an additional 6 provisions and 3 victory points. So we'll go with that. Getting out of his hot spot, Yeti's going to go over to here, which will be 1, 2, 3 for the shrines, 4 for the Dark Forest. He's going to place this out, so it will cost him 7 provisions. And he's going to go right here, which will give him 2 mistletoe, and he'll be able to brew a potion. So with the 2 that he's going to gain, he's actually just going to spend the 2 that he had on hand as well, for a total of 4. And he's going to brew this potion right here. That will gain him 5 points, 2 dice out of the supply, and 6 provisions. And looking out to the map, he has now surrounded another bonfire. So he'll cover that up. That's going to get him 3 points, a sickle advancement, and a die. He's going to double up on the sickle advancement for his special ability. So 3 points, a die, and doubling the sickle advancement so that he can unlock another ability here. We'll set this one inactive. This says that whenever he gains mistletoe, you could gain an additional mistletoe plus 3 points. But this one says that whenever you gain a stone tablet, you will get to gain the benefit of one of the adjacent, you gain one of those adjacent benefits a second time. So that's the one that he's going to keep as active. For our movement, we're going to take advantage of, finally, this ability right here. We're going to move within the same clearing over to here for just the cost of 1 provision. So come over there, and then we will place this out, and I think we will change that down to a 1. We're in the middle of the map here, and so this is super risky. It's a good chance he could come in and take this, but I feel like that extra provision in our pocket is going to be more valuable than that 1 extra pip defending us in this shrine right here. If he's going to come in and take it, I don't think that 1 pip's going to help us much, but it might help us more in the form of provisions. So we'll go with that. So it's going to be 1 for the travel, 1 for the placement. So we'll pay our 2. And then we're going to cover this up here, which is going to give us 2 mistletoe and a potion. And like before, we're just going to spend that right away to brew this level 2 potion, which will give us a die and 6 provisions. And we'll grab that number 5 there. And now, a new phase that we haven't seen. This is step number 6 in your turn. We have completed an uninterrupted path of our dice from one of these dolmen to another dolmen of a matching color. You might have seen these things sprinkled around the outside of the board, and there's a brown one here and a brown one there. And we've now created a path of our dice that flows between the 2 matching colored dolmen. So when this happens, you'll gain, first off, those dolmen, you'll collect them. And then you'll gain victory points equal to the number of dice that was required to create the shortest path possible between those 2 dolmens. So in this case, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 points for the connection. And even better, the first player to create one of these connections collects this dolmen here, which gives an additional 8 points. So we're going to gain a total of 20 points for making that connection. And again, we will hang on to any of these dolmen that we've collected, because there are certain stone tablets that will give you points for having those on hand. So if we make one more connection, which actually, if we have 2 dice in here, we'll connect these 2 blue ones together. So that might be something that we shoot for. Maybe we try to make that connection and then grab that stone tablet there. We'll see what happens. And we have just beaten Yeti to the punch, because he's going to travel over to here, which will cost him 3 provisions. He'll place out this die, he's going to roll it down to a 3. So it'll be a total of 6 provisions. And he'll place that out. They're both the same space, doesn't matter. So he'll put a standing stone out there. He's going to go with this one, which will give him 3 provisions. And then, of course, he'll set off all of them again. So we get a total of 6 provisions for this placement. And that completes a connection between the 2 orange dolmens. And either one of these paths would both take 5 dice to make the connection. So he will gain these as well as 10 points for the connection. And this will gain him an additional 6 points. So he'll gain a total of 16 points for that. Now, looking at our situation here, I would really like to come over and make this connection for those dolmens. But as we look at our resources here, if we were to come over here, it's going to cost 3 provisions to place out, or I'm sorry, to travel, which means with our 7 provisions, the highest value that we could put out is a 4. And I'm thinking that we would probably put out one of the rune stones, and then we would definitely need provisions. And so we would stick this rune stone out, and at a value of 4, that would give us 12 provisions back, which is pretty good. And we'd be a step away from making that connection there. So I do like that. But here's what I'm thinking. If we're going to place a 4 out, maybe it makes more sense to place that 4 over to here so that we complete having 3 of those same value dice adjacent to each other for the stone tablet. If we place there, we'll get the 12 provisions we were just looking at, but we would also take advantage of this ability here, which gets us 6 more provisions and 3 victory points. And ultimately, we have these 2 and those 3 dice. So we're only going to put out 5 more dice. And with those 5, one of those would be what we're talking about placing out now. So we have 4 more dice, and we really want to do something about this track. So this is starting to concern me a little bit. So I don't know if we can make the connection between those dolmens, but we got to start eyeing up the end game here before it gets too late. So we'll run with that. It's going to go 1, 2, and 3 for the dark space. And then, of course, we're going to, we'll change this down to a 4. So that's going to take up all of our provisions. But we'll place this out right there. And with the 12 provisions from that space, plus the extra 6 there, we'll get a total of 18 provisions. And then the extra 3 victory points. And apparently, Yeti is also eyeing up the end game because he's going to come over to there for a single provision on the travel, and he's going to place out his value 6 die. So it's going to cost him 7 provisions. And he's going to put a rune stone out. He's going with this one right here. Now remember, he has the special ability that boosts up his rune stones by 2, which is right there. So it's as if he placed a value 8 out. Now, again, these ones will always subtract 1 from whatever your total is. So he's got 8 minus 1 for a total of 7 advancements on the knowledge track. And with that value 6 die, that's sitting pretty safe. But with 7 advancements, he will go all the way to the top. And now if he gets any further advancements for the rest of the game, each advancement will be worth 2 points. But as it is, he's capped out at the topmost multiplier. So he's sitting pretty good to get some good points at the end of the game. Now as we look to the map, he has surrounded yet one more bonfire on all the sides. So he'll place a token out. He's going to gain 3 points. A sickle advancement. And then this will give him 3 provisions, and he's going to double tap that one to give himself a total of 6 provisions. And I'm just now realizing the notes would have said it on the screen, but I had forgotten to claim this bonfire when I had surrounded it previously. So this would give us 3 victory points and 1 advancement on the knowledge track. So we'll take those right now. Well, hopefully we're not spreading ourselves too thin here, but we're going to move to go 1, 2, and then we've crossed 2 dark forest spaces, so it'll be a total of 4 provisions for the movement. And once again, we will roll that down to a 1. So total of 5 provisions. We'll place that out there. And then we're going to cover up this space here, which will give us 3 advancements of our sickle. And then we've actually completed 2 bonfires by doing that. We've surrounded this one and that one. Unfortunately, we don't get to double tap anything like old Yeti over there, but that will gain us a die and a die, so we'll get 2 dice. Take these. And then we will get 3, 6, 9 points. And then 3 provisions and 1 mistletoe. Now for this, I think we're going to do what Mr. Yeti over there has done. And we'll try to boost up our rune stones, see if maybe we can get a big jump on the knowledge track as well. Back to Yeti, and he is going to move 1, 2 with a dark forest crossing for a total of 3 provisions. And he's going to place out, he's worried about provisions, so he's going to roll that down to a 2. So he's got a total of 5 provisions going away. He's going to place that out right here to get a gemstone into the level 3 slot. And he's going to choose this one right here. Now this is his second level 3, so he's going to get to add it in over here, which will score him 10 points at the end of the game. And he'll get 2 of those for a total of 6 provisions back. Okay, let's see if we can get ourselves a rune stone. So we got 1, 2, and then 3, 4 for the dark forest. We're going to put this 5 out. So it'll be a total of 9 provisions. And we'll place that right there. And we're going to get that same rune stone out. And of course, now that we have that special ability there, that 5 becomes a 7. So we're going to get 6 advancements up here. And if I've mathed this outright, I think that's all we need to be able to reach the top of that track by the end of the game. So we'll see, hopefully. On to Yeti. He's going to move down over to here for 2 provisions. And then he's going to change this to a 3. It's going to cost him 5 provisions total. He's going to place it out right there to grab himself a tablet. And he will go with this one right here. He's certainly crossed that threshold. You need to have advanced 6 spaces on the knowledge track, which he's more than done. So that's met for him. And now he's going to get the bonuses from where he took this from. But remember, he has this special ability here. This means that you get to activate the bonuses on both sides of that tablet you get those bonuses each twice. So he will gain 2 mistletoe and 6 provisions. Okay, we are in the home stretch here. We have this die and that one, which we need to get out. So we're only going to get 2 more dice placements. And I wanted to connect this. We're 1 die away from doing that. We're so close. But if we come over there, we could put this runestone out right here, which would get us that die that we have locked up still. Be our last die. But it wouldn't give us any provisions, so I don't think we'd have a way of putting that last die out. So I hate to give up on this connection, but I think I see a way for us to get the die, the provisions we need, and then finish our climb on the knowledge track, which is going to be really important for multiplying all the dice that we have out here. So with that in mind, I think let's head over here for 2 provisions for travel, and then we're going to stick out a value 4 die to be able to take control of this area here. So it's going to cost us our 6 provisions here. We're going to roll this down to a 4, and then we'll place it out there. That'll let us put our own standing stone out, and we're going to grab this one here. So that'll give us 1 mistletoe for pulling it off. And then these will all go off again, which will give us 3 provisions, our last die, and 1 more mistletoe. Yeti's going to continue his trek in this direction. So that will be 2 for the movement. And then he's going to change this to a 3. So he's going to spend a total of 5 provisions. And he's going to place this out and grab another stone tablet. And we forgot to refill this when he grabbed his last one. And he's going to grab this one right here. And before we forget, we will refill that. So he's grabbing this. That's going to give him 6 provisions and 2 sickle advancements. And then that completes another bonfire for him. So he will gain a die, another sickle advancement, and 3 points. He'll grab this, 1 advancement, 3 points. And of course he can double tap one of these. He sees the fact that we have our last die out. He's not going to get a chance to spend his other die. And he could take another 3 points, but another bump on the sickle track will take him up to scoring 20 points on this track at the end of the game. Otherwise, he'd be sitting at 15. So that's the double tap that he'll get out of the bonfire. That brings us to our final dice placement, which will be our final turn. And we're going to move up here for 1 provision. And we're going to have to change this down to a 3. That's for the movement. That'll be for the placement. I wish we had just a couple more provisions. I would have actually changed that up to a 6, and then we could have tied Yeti for this space, because we'll end up beating him in the long run. We're going to advance on the knowledge track. We'll end up in the last space on top of him. The tiebreaker would go in our favor, but we just don't have enough provisions. But I'm still glad to be able to go here, because we're going to gain 2 mistletoe and brew a potion. We're going to spend the 3 mistletoe that we do have, and along with the 2 we just gained, we're going to brew this potion right here, which is going to let us take a gemstone, and we will get its benefit multiplied by 5 times. And so we're going to go with this gemstone right here. And when you're brewing this gemstone, you can slot it into any one of these, and for us it doesn't matter. any one of these will give us 10 points. But so we'll slot that in. That'll give us 5 movements on the knowledge track. 4. And we have reached the end. We're in the tiebreaker position, but again, we're just short on beating him out right there. That's okay. We're able to get to the end of that track, which is going to be huge, hopefully, for all of the multipliers that we're going to have coming our way. And I'm thinking that'll offset not grabbing this connection right here. And so with us placing that last die out there, that triggers the end of the game. At this point, you continue play until everyone has had the same number of turns, at which point the game comes to an end and you go into final scoring. And since we were the start player, Yeti will get one more turn so that we all have an equal number of turns. Which, by the way, as noted, Yeti did establish a connection among these dolmens right here. So he's got a path that leads from this pink one to this pink one, and the shortest path between is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he will gain 10 points for that, plus this last one here for an extra 4 points. So he'll gain a total of 14 points. And now he certainly has enough dolmens to complete that stone tablet there. But that does bring us to his final turn. And he's going to move right here for the cost of 2 provisions. And he'll change this down to a 4 for a total of 6 provisions. He will place that out and be able to put out 1 more runestone. Actually, he's going to take those 2 provisions back and leave that right at a 6. Because the runestone he's putting out is this one right here. It's going to give him victory points multiplied 2 times by the dice that he put out. So he will place that out. It's going to be 6 times 2 for 12 victory points. And catching 1 more. Again, as noted, we missed this bonfire when he placed there, so that's going to get him 3 points and a mistletoe, and he can double tap one of them. So, of course, he'll take 6 points and 1 mistletoe. And with that last placement, that brings us to the end of the game. Of course, Yeti was not able to get that last die out, but I think he's sitting pretty good regardless. So now we'll move into final scoring, and we'll see exactly where we end up. So the first thing that we take a look at in final scoring are the remaining resources. Every unused mistletoe, every 6 provisions, and every unused die, whether or not it's in your personal supply or still locked away. Each one of those will give you a victory point. So for us, we won't get anything for that. We've used all of our provisions, all of our dice, and all of our mistletoe. Yeti, on the other hand, has 3 mistletoe, 7 provisions, and 1 remaining die. So he'll get 1, 4, 5 points for his leftovers. Next up, we look at where we've ended up on the sickle track and score points accordingly. So we made it to here, which will get us 10 points. And Yeti ended up at the very end, so he's going to get 20 points for that. Which, by the way, when he crossed that 50, he should have had that tile come out there. Next up, we will score our stone tablets that we got completed. Now, in this case, we unfortunately were very close to getting both, but we did not get 4 potions brewed. We did, however, complete this one where we had those 4 dice right here adjacent to each other. So we will get 10 points for that. And we'll get to put that out. Yeti managed to complete all 3 of his. He got 4 of his rune stones. He advanced at least 6 times on the knowledge track, and he has 5 dolmens in his supply. So he's going to get a total of 30 points for that. And then this will flip over to the 100 side. He has lapped us. Yikes. The next thing we look at is the amulet. So for us, we got all of the left side done, which will get us 20 points, and 1 row done, which will have a total of 30 points there. Yeti, of course, did not complete that side, but he did get 1 row done, so he'll gain 10 points there. That brings us to the last category. This is where we will score shrines. This is definitely the most complex of the scoring, but at the same time, it's pretty straightforward. So we will start by looking out at each individual shrine and removing every die out of that shrine except for the one that has the highest value. So of course, there are only 4 of these that require that type of evaluation. So if we look down here, this die is going to leave because it's the lowest value. This one will go. This one will go. And that one will go. And now, across the entire map, we will pull back all of the pieces from every shrine where we have a die. So, such as this one here, we'll get to take back all of those. Yeti will gain all of these. And of course we'll gain these ones here, while Yeti will snatch up all of these. So, after collecting all of that, we ended up with 11 dice and 4 stones total. So we have a total of 15 objects here. So we'll take 15 and multiply it by where we're at on this track. So it's going to be 15 times 4 for a total of 60 points. So we can flip this over to show that we got 50 points, and then this will go forward by 10. And Yeti ended up with 10 dice, 5 stones. Total of 15 times the 4. He also got 60 points. So we'll move this forward by 10, and then this will get replaced with that for his other 50. And that is the final score. Yeti has bested us with 190 to our 145. We got smoked, but that's how it goes. I think it's interesting that we were able to essentially take an additional turn on top of what Yeti was able to accomplish, but he was able to get quite a bit more done. Now, as you might imagine, player count in this game is going to make a really big difference. This map is not larger, but these tiles are all double-sided, and so there will be significantly more spaces that you can go out to in either a 3-player or a 4-player game. So, for example, in a 4-player game, each shrine would have 4 spots. In a 3-player game, there would be just 3 spots. So the number of spaces per shrine is larger, but you'll notice the number of shrines stays the same. So there's going to be a lot more crowding in, and competition for these shrines is going to be much higher at higher player counts, which means the dice that you put out are certainly going to matter a lot more. We had a couple of moments here where we were jockeying for position on these shrines, but at higher player counts, that's definitely going to be a bigger factor. But it plays wonderfully at 2 players as well, and hopefully this gave you a sense of the actions that you're taking and the decisions that you're making, and just displays what Druids of Edora is all about. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Thank you for watching and being here for this playthrough. And until next time, we'll see you on our next expedition.